Looking to find harmony and work-life balance? Join Coach Anna Joe as she shares practical strategies, empowering mindsets, and inspiring stories to live the life you want to lead on Anna Joe Talks, Work Life for Badasses. Now, here's your host, Coach Anna Joe.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Anna Joe Talks Work Life for Badasses. I'm Coach Anna Joe, and I'm here to challenge the myth of balance and find real harmony in modern life. Get ready for that moment that will inspire you to take action and live life on your own terms. I'm your host, Coach Anna Joe, and let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Hello. So the topic of the episode of today's podcast is about the hardest boundaries to set and why you need a formula. Okay. And today we are diving into a topic that has been blowing my mind lately. Why boundaries are hardest with people closest to us. And yes, and why I had this epiphany, like why boundaries are hardest with people closest to us than work. That was what I was thinking, right? It's because I'm having I did a masterclass last week, and the masterclass was how to set boundaries without feeling guilt and anxiety. And yes, I have a formula, an 8-step formula that it's a framework and help you um, to build your boundaries without like feeling guilt and anxiety, right? So it has a lot of work in terms of step by step. But like I was doing this masterclass and I decided to do a Facebook campaign with ads. So, and first I was surprised that I had so many signups. Really, so many signups. And the second one is that I called two people. So when you sign up for a masterclass, they give you a name. And because I want to be real, I want to be authentic with the people. Like, because this, digital world with masterclasses looks like could be a spam, like a scam, like spam and scam, right? So it's like both. Like it's too much. So I want to, even if it's 150 signups, looks like a lot for me. Other people will be, only, but for me it's a lot. But I want to make sure that I am connecting with the people that enter in my world. That's what it is about. So I call, but I couldn't call to everybody, just by the way. But I called to, and I called to more, but I talked with around 30 women. All right, this campaign was for women, 30 women, and the conversations I was having with them was fascinating first. All right. They are powerful women and really fascinating. But I've got to tell you, I did not expect this discovery that hardest boundaries are the ones with the closest ones for you. And when I think about it, it's a big truth. It's the real struggle with boundaries that I assume that would be happening at work and with demanding bosses and coworkers and people who don't respect your time and your deadlines, and the boss who has unrealistic expectation dropping you a project or report on Friday afternoon, right? So I know those are real, and that's where I need to speak up. I need to stand, stand up in my voice. I know, but the hardest boundaries are the ones at home. And I thought, it's true for me, but listening for these women who are thriving and having this struggle, it's real. So I want to share this with you because I'm sure perhaps with you happen at the same. I keep hearing the same, right? So at work, I know what to do. I just need to be more confident about saying it, right? So about saying what are my boundaries and communicate them. That's what I work. But at home, I don't even know where to start because if I don't do it, nobody will. And it's my family, it's my home. I really don't know. Okay, so it's about what is my boundary at home because it's the people are so close. Your family, your children are so close to you that even the clarity, what's the boundary and what's the violation, it's not clear. All right, so and let me give you something which is about the manual of instructions, because that starts from there. All right, it's the manual of instructions that you have yourself, but you never give to anyone else. It's yours. You don't communicate, but it's a manual of instructions. You expect others to actually follow your manual of instructions, right? So let me go with that, because how many times have you been frustrated because someone in your life just don't get it, right? And it just don't get it. You assume something. It's like the reality and the only one truth. And it's like, what? Right? So perhaps your partner assumes you handle all the housework. Yeah, all right. Maybe your parents expect you to answer their calls immediately in that moment, no matter what. Maybe your kids treat you like you have unlimited energy. All right. You are always available as well. And inside, you are what? Tell me, like screaming, like, why don't they see how much I'm doing? Why they don't see that I'm busy here? Why they don't see I'm doing this, right? So isn't it like, oh my God, right? But here's the truth. You cannot, like you can't really write an instruction, like the manual of instructions for someone else's behavior, all right, without telling them what's in it. All right, I'm going to repeat. You cannot having your manual of instructions for someone else's behavior, including your family, your children, your partner, your parents, without telling them what's in it. All right. So we assume that people just know what we need. I know. I wish. I know and I wish, right? But the fact and the reality, they don't. They don't. They don't know because we have made it clear and looks clear for us. It's obvious. It's the only one truth. But even when we do communicate our needs, we can control how they respond. And for me, especially with my children, all right, I have a teenager, please be with me. Even I communicate like, I think I communicate, right? I don't know, like he's like, I can control, right? So how they respond, like what? Oh man, like I'm still surprised. But that right there is the biggest mental shift we need to make when it comes to boundaries. And this is what I want to talk about. Okay. So, because it's about that, like a lot of people think setting boundaries is all about how to say it, right? How to phrase things, how to stand firm, how to avoid guilt. But here's what I've learned. All right. This is what I've learned. I've been researching as a scientist. I go deep. Communication is just one part of it. Look, on the 8-step formula I have for how to build boundaries is only one step. All right. It's step number 3. All right. And the real challenge starts way before the conversation happens. All right. Because boundaries are just rules we say out loud. And I am the one, like the mom rules the boundaries or the limits or the whatever it is at home, right? So it is like that because I want to, because it's obvious that's how it works, okay? But they are decisions we have to fully own, right? So, and the hardest part, what is it? Getting clear on what boundary we actually need, all right? And that's, for me, one key part, which is the step 1 and 2, right? So this is why so many people struggle. If we don't know what we need, how can we communicate it clearly? And if we don't believe in the boundary ourselves, how can we expect anyone else to respect it? See how it is? Okay, so both things go. So I want to get for one time. So I remember struggling with the bond. I think it's still ongoing. I think this is always work in progress. But I was in that time, like perhaps 5 years ago, starting to have a teenager, especially struggling with setting boundaries at home. So actually at work, because there was this culture, open culture, right? So we had the conversations and sometimes not so easy, but it felt easier. I had deadlines, priority structure, I was my team, and, I think it was easier. But at home, okay, let me tell you guys, the guilt, the expectations, the emotions, it was so much harder. All right. It was always, and I didn't even think it was a boundary. I was thinking boundaries was always related to work in that time. I wasn't thinking about the boundaries at home. It was rules. It has to be working like that because families work like that. I don't know. It's something like weird saying right now, but I think it was how I was thinking. So I was always thinking about if I don't do this, who will? right? And I need to do it because it has to be done. And I was waiting for someone else to see how much I was doing. And magically, for instance, my husband, will change the behavior because they see me doing and, they want to help, right? So, but that never happened. All right. So tell me like how much times that are you, like doing the dishes and someone comes to you and say, let me help you. I don't know, like once in a while, right? So does your son, a teenager, do that if you don't put the boundaries there? And if you really follow the boundaries that you are not doing it. All right. So things like that actually are the ones that perhaps it was happening. And what happened? I got resentful. I got frustrated. And the fact is, actually, I never told them what I needed. Do you know that? Do you mean what I say? Like I was expecting them to do. I was actually like venting, you never help, you never do this, but like communicating, it was not happening. All right. And that's when it clicked. Boundaries don't start with words, they start with decisions. All right. Decisions. And a decision is about what is your boundary? What is the boundary you want to implement? First, the implement for, that's a good one. But first is what is the boundary you want for your life that, that you won't feel like resentful. Let's start with resentful feeling first. Like what is the thing that you're doing and you feel resentful because you're doing? So, or like a situation with someone else that you feel resentful, right? So something, think about that situation and think about what is the boundary that serve you. All right, what is the boundary? So that is about identify the boundary. All right, because think about it. When we set the boundary out of frustration, like because it's happening, right? When it's happening, it often sounds like I can't do this anymore. You need to stop expect me to handle everything. I can't. I did and did and did, and you vent yourself, right? You start to venting yourself. But when we set the boundary from a place of clarity, when we are not leaving the situation, that's key, right? So the identify the boundary starts when you have clarity in a moment that you can see things in the perspective out of frustration, out when is reacting mode. Okay, you are thinking, right? So, and when it's like that from a place of clarity, peace, and love, it sounds like I've realized, look at this, that I need more balance. So, moving forward, I need us to split these tasks differently. Would you help me? See the difference? Yeah. And it looks like, yeah, it works for me, but don't work for you. You can see my house. But so that's kind of where it comes to work. What identify and thinking through, like what the boundary look like for you. First, what's the boundary you need and how, like, what do you need? What's the boundary itself? What's the violation? And what is the consequence? Like, let's think about this part because also a boundary without a consequence is not a boundary. It's something that you are frustrated about and whatever. It's not a boundary. A boundary have to have a consequence. Okay. So, but when we don't have clarity, we either don't set the boundary at all, right? We just vent, or you just be the mad people like, hey, you did that and that, right? So, or we set in a way that creates conflict, right? So that's what happened. It's in the moment, you react, and yeah. But when we take the time to work through it before we say it out loud, everything shifts. All right. We're not trying to force people to change. And this is key. We're not trying to force people to change. We are deciding how we will show up differently. And why? Because we can't. We can't. Seriously, that's, if everything about this podcast in this last part, this is the only thing that matters to really be successful building and implementing boundaries. You can't expect and you can't control other people's behaviors. And that's the basic. And if you can't control other people's behaviors, also, you better not trying to force people to change. They have to change by themselves because they decided to. You are not the one who change other people, including your children, including, you can influence. You can have a conversation, you can communicate this, but you know what? It's the boundaries to implement comes from yourself. What is the boundary? What is the violation? What is the consequence? And then comes the communication and then the implementation. Does it make sense? All right, so this is what I am teaching. I did this first masterclass last week, but I have good news for you. I want you to keep pay attention, and because I'm going to keep my mission, because after this campaign is not, I don't feel it's fair to do one and done. So I'm going to keep doing a masterclass about boundaries, and I really want to, because I have so much about boundaries, because I've learned so much myself, and also I'm sure that I will. I have planned. I'm sure no, I have planned already to do more podcasts about boundaries and be more clear about boundaries. But I want you guys to be on alert for the next date of masterclass, how to build boundaries without feeling guilt and anxiety. But please, that's something that is very important that you get it. And I wanted to challenge you with the thought, which is we can control other people's behaviors. All right, we can't. And it's so hard, especially without children, the closest ones. All right, it's so hard because they are too close to us. They are too close. Also, I'm doing as well some workshops, local workshops, like I live in New Jersey and New York, about boundaries. And I'm telling you guys, this is a mission that I'm taking the mission because I feel that so much points to go and talk through about what a boundary, a successful boundary that you feel good about that is. You don't need to be the bad guy to implement a boundary. So I will be doing this, and I will be pay attention in all my socials and the next date for the live masterclass. It will be free. It will be free masterclass, and I will be teaching the 8-step formula. All right. So now that you have one good thought about boundaries, I want you to challenge now to think and reflect one boundary that you like to implement. And to would like means what's the situation that's right now it's tense, as something for you that it's creating resentment and frustration and perhaps anxiety, right? And if you think about implementing a boundary there, it creates guilt. Impossibility means I can't, is impossible. But look at the lens of I can control other people's behaviors, and other people's could be your children, all right? It could be your husband, your wife, the person that is closest to you, all right? You can control their behaviors. So what can you do? Okay. All right. So that's it for today. Okay. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who needs to hear this. And I'm sure you have someone who who need it. And don't forget to join me on Mondays with Coach Anna Joe live on Instagram. Now it's live on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Now I'm on these 3 platforms at 9 a.m. Eastern Time if you want to hear more from me as well. All right. So thank you for tuning in. All right. So thank you. Thank you for tuning in here into Anna Joe Talks, Work Life for Badasses. I hope today's episode has inspired you to live life on your own terms. Until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are capable, and you can do hard things. See ya.
Looking to find harmony and work-life balance? Join Coach Anna Joe as she shares practical strategies, empowering mindsets, and inspiring stories to live the life you want to lead on Anna Joe Talks, Work Life for Badasses.